If you've ever done a long fast, and we're really unfortunate about the short fast, you never get to the second part, right? Because the first few days, you're kind of like going through that, and then after a little while, that goes away, and then it becomes easy. Okay, so then I reached this point, and then the Lord started doing other things to help me to show me how he wanted to purge. So one of the things he was telling me to do is just kind of in the natural, he was trying to give me like a physical demonstration of what was happening inside. So what he was telling me was, you need to purge your house. Okay, in fact, I think a lot of people are doing this in 2020 during the quarantine. They're just like purging things out, right? But I think God was telling like, this is a physical demonstration of what I'm trying to do inside. He's saying like, you need to start throwing everything away that doesn't belong in here. So me and my wife were like going through all the rooms and all the closets, and we're throwing things away and donating things, and we're piling all of these things up. And then we're going through our garage, and all these things that have been there since we moved there 10 years ago are still in boxes. We're going through all of those boxes and all of these files and all these different things and getting rid of everything that doesn't belong. But you know what's interesting is that takes a lot of work. Okay, so let me give you a little bit of context of what was happening during my fast. So my fast, I would only drink water. Okay, so I would only have water during the day. Okay, so during the daytime, only water. Okay, only water all throughout the day. And then at night, I would let myself have like a cup of broth or soup or something like that, or a smoothie. Okay, so that's my day. Every day was the same thing. Water during the day. And at the end of the day, I would have like a cup of soup or a smoothie, and then I was kind of looking it up. So I was probably going on maybe like 300, 400 calories per day, okay, at the very end of the day. So, but the whole day was only water, okay, only water. Every day, only water. And then I'm doing all of this physical activity. This is on top of my regular job. So I was doing my regular job as a pastor, doing all the different meetings, and I'm going through my staff meeting and elders meetings and planning meetings and strategic meetings and budget meetings and administrative meetings. And I was studying for my Bible study and sermon preps, and I was going to all these different things. I was doing all of those things that I was doing before, plus on top of that, I was doing all of this purging that was going on. And then I was doing my chores that I normally do. I'm washing the floors, and I'm doing dishes, and I'm doing laundry, and I'm doing all this stuff. And I'm going throughout this whole thing, and I'm thinking, how is this happening? How am I keep going every day, right? But I just felt like, I don't know, I feel like God's empowering me to do it. Then I'm going throughout this all the time of this purging. And, I remember this one time I was like going through and lifting all these boxes and moving all these bookshelves, and I was like sweating, and I'm feeling like, how am I doing all of this, right? This is all during the day when I had nothing, right? I just only have water, 0 calories all throughout the day. And the Lord was teaching me what kind of thing happens when you're completely dependent on him. When he started purging all of these different things, guess what the result was? When I got rid of these things, I was able to receive more from him. I was able to recognize more of a dependence on him. I was able to feel the result of being dependent on God, which is an abundance and a power that doesn't make human sense. So I was going throughout this time. And when I was going through this time, it's interesting because at the beginning of 2020, you kind of make the New Year's resolution. So I wanted to try to be more active. Okay, so I don't know if you guys track your steps, but on the phone, it kind of tracks your steps, right? So at the beginning of 2020, my goal was to do 10,000 steps per day. Okay, and so all throughout 2020, I was trying to do 10,000 steps per day. And then I was doing okay. So let's look at this. My first month before the fast, I averaged 13,326 steps per day. And I was saying, I'm doing really good. I'm having a good start to 2020. Okay, so this was my goal starting in 2020. Then the Lord told me about this 40-day fast, and I'm thinking, what do I do with this goal, right? Like, I can't do this, right? This was hard for me when I'm eating. Like, how am I going to do this goal when I'm fasting and only drinking water, right? And some days the Lord was telling me, I don't even want you to drink water. There are some days he'd tell me, don't drink water, for this morning. Some days he was telling me, just drink water all day. Don't have anything at night. So these are the different things he was telling me. And I was thinking, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? Okay. But as the weeks went on, as the days went on, let me show you the first month. Okay, so the first 30 days of the fast, what did I average? I averaged 13,700 and, was that 82? God, my hands are bad. I averaged more than I did the month before my fast. Okay, so I was going throughout and I was continuing to walk. I was continuing to do all of these steps on top of all the other things, on top of my job, on top of the cleaning, on top of the purging, on top of all these different things, I was doing this. Then towards the end of the fast, after the 30 days, the last 10 days. And I remember the last 10 days thinking, wow, this is coming to an end soon. And you would think after doing this for 30 days, that what would you have left to finish? And I've talked to other people that have done 40 days fast, and they're thinking the end is really hard. The end is really difficult to try to push yourself towards the very end. But for something happened to me. I felt more energy during this time than I did even at the beginning. Not only was I not eating, I was not sleeping. I was sleeping very little. I love sleep, right? I try to get as much sleep as I can. I didn't even need much sleep. I didn't even need to eat. I didn't have much sleep. And then towards the end, I felt like, I had even more energy. And then I look at my last 10 days. These are my average for the last 10 days. 23,050 steps for my last 10 days. That was my average. Then I look at the last day. Okay, so the last day before I'm going to break my fast, it was day 39 and a half. Okay, so the next day, that next night, I'm going to break my fast. Okay, so it's interesting. I had a doctor's appointment way back before, scheduled on that day 39. Okay, so I go to the doctor. I go to the doctor's appointment, and then this whole time, I didn't weigh myself, right? I didn't want to make it about what my weight was or whatever. And it's interesting because my first 40-day fast, I lost 35 pounds. Okay, so I was 180 something, and I went all the way down to 150 something, right? And so after I finished that first 40 days, I kept a lot of the weight off, right? I wanted to try to keep a lot of the weight off. So when I started this, I was 165, right? I was 165, and I thought, there's no way I'm going to lose like I did in the first fast, right? And so I was just not even thinking about the weight thing. So then on day 39, I go to the doctor, okay? And then, when you go to the doctor, you go on the scale, right? So I go in there, I go on the scale, and then the reading is on the right next to the scale. So I kind of look out of the side, corner of my eye, I'm like, what? That can't be right. I was 135. 135. I lost another 30 pounds. I didn't think that was possible, right? And during that time, my wife was even saying, it's you look like a POW right now. You're like a skeleton walking around. She kept telling me that, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm 135. So then I go into the doctor's office, and then I'll tell you the second part of that in a bit. So then this is kind of my state on the 39th day. Okay, I just want to give you a little context on the 39th day. On the 39th day, this was my steps. 35,000 steps on day 39, right? And when you look at this, think about this for a second, okay? I'm having 300 calories a day at the very end of the day, or sometimes no calories. How is this possible? And if you think about this, this is not possible. This is not possible. In fact, when I did this 35,000 steps, I did it all the way till midnight, okay? So that night, the night before I was going to break the fast the next day, the Lord told me, I want you to go out and start walking, okay? And I want you to keep on walking until I tell you to stop. So I walked all the way till midnight, right? And that's how I got 35,000 steps. I walked all the way to midnight. I walked for 2.5 hours that night, right? All the way to midnight. And I got to tell you, I kind of kept walking. I felt amazing. I felt so alive, and I felt so close and connected to the Lord. And you look at that, that's not possible, right? And when you're listening to this, I don't want you to look at this and say, wow, look at Pastor Sam. Do not do that. If you're doing that and you're watching it at home, rewind it and listen to this again. This is not possible. This is not humanly possible. This is what happens when the Spirit of God is moving inside a human vessel. This is not humanly possible. I'm not a super athlete. I'm not a triathlete that could do something like this. Before this even started, I couldn't even run a lap around the track. That's like my physical condition. That's why I had to do walking, because I can't run. That's my physical state. I'm not a super athlete. I can't do this. This is not humanly possible. This is not natural. This was supernatural. This is what happens when you are dependent on God, when you are receiving from Him on a daily basis, that you are not going on your own strength and your own energy. During the 40-day fast, I couldn't, right? And that's one of the things that helped me experience what I experienced. I literally couldn't do that. I couldn't depend upon myself. I couldn't depend on what I'm eating. I couldn't depend on my physical strength. Yet I didn't do less. I did way more. And out of this power, fruitfulness started coming out. All these things started coming out. You know, during the fast, I'm not sure if I shared this prior before, but I was never a reader, right? I really just read the Bible. That's all I really read. I don't read on a lot of other books. Right? But during the fast, the Lord started highlighting different things He wanted me to read. And I read different books and I listened to different books. And during that 40-day time, I read 10 books. Right? That's probably more than I did the previous 5 years put together. In 40 days, I read 10 books. Then He started bringing other people to me. And I started helping them and them writing their own books. And they're submitting things to me. Could you read this? Could you help me go through this? So one person sent me his book. Then another person sent me his book. Then a third person sent me his book. Then a fourth person, it's kind of outrageous, fourth person within a matter of a week and a half sent me their book. And I went through all of them. I went through all of these different books, kind of going through them and going through their material and going back and forth with them and helping them edit it during this time. All of these things were happening during these 40 days. All of this fruit was just coming out. And what was so amazing, I wasn't trying to do any of it. I wouldn't go in there making this goal that I'm going to read 10 books. I didn't go into this idea that I'm going to help different people editing their books and going through that. I didn't have any of those things in mind. I didn't have that as a goal. I wasn't trying to do any of those things. It was happening naturally. It was happening supernaturally. Fast forward to day 39 again, and I was going to the doctor's office, and then I went inside, and they were checking my blood pressure. So the nurse comes in, checking my blood pressure, and then she's looking at the reading, and then she said, "Oh, can we do it again?" I'm like, "Okay, I'll do it again." So put on my arm again, and then she looked at the blood pressure, and she did it again, and then she's had this trouble look on her face, and I'm like, "Is everything okay?" I was getting a little bit worried, right? And she's like, "Oh, no, it's okay. Can I try your other arm?" So then she tried my other arm, and she tried to take my blood pressure. I'm like, "Wait a minute, what's going on here?" She's not telling me what's going on. She's like, "Well, I just want to make sure because your blood pressure seems very, very low right now," right? And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So she gave me the numbers, and I should have wrote down. I can't remember the numbers, but I looked it up later. It was very low. It was below what's normal, right? And so she was kind of concerned, and I told her I got to share my testimony. I got to share and say, I'm doing this because I'm doing a 40-day fast. And I felt like this is what the Lord wanted me to do, and I shared my testimony thing. And what's great is that she was like unsure about the reading, so she got another nurse. So another nurse came in, and she took my blood pressure, and she did the same thing. "Oh, can I take it again?" I'm like, "Okay, let me tell you my story." So like I told her, I got to share my testimony with her. Then the doctor comes in, and he looks at my weight, and he looks at all this stuff. I got to share my testimony with my doctor, and I got to share with him about all the things I was doing. And I was thinking, this is so amazing. All the things that the Lord is doing, and it's happening so naturally. This is what happens when you get connected with the Lord. This is what happens when His Spirit is leading and guiding, that you get to experience fruit that doesn't come from you, that you can't manufacture, that you can't do yourself. Let me give you another example. Okay, this is just a simple, everyday example. It happened this morning. Okay, so I was on my prayer walk like I usually do in the morning. I was praying and connecting with God, and then I was walking through the neighborhood, and then all of a sudden on my eye, I look and I see something on the ground. It's some bright red thing, so I picked it up, and it's this red keychain with 2 keys on it. And I was looking at that, and I was like, And I don't know why, but I feel like I really want to find the owner. I want to find who owns these keys so I can get them these keys. And I'm like, how do I do that? I don't know who dropped it, right? And so there was a garage sale the day before, and I'm like, maybe someone from the garage sale dropped it, lost it. I'm like, how am I supposed to get it to them? Da, da, da. And so what do? I asked the Lord about it. So I asked the Lord, what do you want me to do? And the Lord said, put it back down here, because the person who lost these keys is going to come back and look for it. It's like, okay, so I just left it. I'm like, okay, I don't have anything to do. I'll just leave it there, because if I took it, then they'll come back and they won't be able to find it. So I put it down there on the ground, and I kept walking. And then I was turning the corner, and there's this little cul-de-sac that sweeps around and comes back to the same place. So then I went down this cul-de-sac, and I'm just kind of walking and talking and enjoying my time with the Lord and connecting with him and listening to him, trying to do more listening than talking, like I was talking about last time. And I was going around this cul-de-sac, and I came back to the same point. Okay, and then I started walking some more. As soon as I came back to the same place, I saw this elderly woman walking towards me. Okay, and I've seen this lady before, and she had this really like concerned look on her face. And so I just said, hi, how are you doing? And then she barely kind of looked up at me, right? And I was like, okay, she's got something going on, right? And so I said hi to her, and then she looked at me and said, excuse me, can I ask you something? I'm like, oh yeah, what is it? She said, have you seen like a red keychain with 2 keys on it that I lost here? I'm like, oh my gosh, I did find that. Come with me. So then I come and I walk her over to the keychain. And while I'm walking over there, her whole face kind of changes, right? And then she is so relieved and she's so thankful. And she said, this is the second time we lost our keys. We lost our keys a few months ago, and we had to rekey our whole house, and we had to pay all this money. And she was sharing about all the hardships, and she said, I can't believe that we lost the keys again, and we have to go through this again. And she said, I don't even know why I asked you this question. I didn't think that you would have the answer, right? Because we've been down the same street 3 times already, right? I don't know why I even asked you this question. And I think, I know why. God was prompting you to ask me, because he showed me and he told me. And so I got to share with that woman, and she was just so overflowing, so appreciative during that time. Very simple, everyday example. But this is the kind of things that happen when you're connected with the Lord and when he's leading and guiding. This is the resurrected life. This is the life he wants us to live. This is the life that Jesus lived. This is the life that he lived, where he said, I only do what I see the Father doing. And when we look at John 15, it says, you can do nothing apart from the vine. Keep looking at the other side. But with the vine, I can do all things. And I can be supernaturally fruitful, because this is the life he's called us to.